And there we go. Hello and welcome everybody to a two-man episode of Sports Zealots here, not on Widecast Radio, but on YouTube. And today, as we are without Matt,
he's serving 2 minutes in the penalty box.
We have, of course, as always, Justin joining us today in the studio. Justin, we have not a lot to talk about. It's a very short episode today.
It is a slow news week in the world of hockey.
Because things are starting to heat up, but not for the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks are in quite the free fall recently. They lost this past Wednesday to the Flyers, 3-2 in regulation. They're currently 8-10 since February 2nd, and 2-5 in their last 7 games. Justin, yes, what has happened to the Blackhawks?
Well, Corey Crawford, first of all, has finally realized that he is not elite.
Mm-hmm.
But the team cannot. It is finally proven that 2 men, a.k.a. the bread man, and Kane, do not make a team. Yes, you surround yourself with people like Ladd and all these other people, but the issue is it's not really chemistry building. It's, let's sign everybody who did good in every other teams, put them in a line with other people who did good at some point in their career, and they're magically going to produce. It's not how things work.
Not at all. And it's funny, though, because looking at the Canadiens, even though they're still kind of bad, they're still almost in a playoff spot. Like, they're, I think, at like 71 points, but that's not that far away.
That's because the Lightning are falling, too.
Yes, they are. And since trading Dale Weiss, I think that might have been the turning point. Maybe not at all, but it's kind of weird.
He's not producing in Chicago.
No, he's not,
so.
And no, neither is Fleischman. After I think they got him from the Ducks, right?
Yeah.
And then Ladd has been okay. He's gotten, I think, 1 goal, maybe two. I don't remember off the top of my head, but
not noticeable on the ice at all.
No, because I think the whole entire reason the Flyers won Wednesday night is because of how well they play together. Yes. Like, they're a complete unit. And I think Hextall realized that at the trade deadline. I've been saying this for quite a while now, but for Hextall, it was either you give me exactly what I think these players are worth, or we're not doing business whatsoever.
Absolutely.
And you kind of saw that in the rumor about Radko Gudas, who was apparently offered like 2 second-round picks for.
And with Raffl, how there was interest, but if he did not get his 2 second-round picks, he's not trading them whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. And it was a smart idea, because, look at where the team could possibly end up. We're fighting with Pittsburgh and Detroit for a playoff spot. Like, we just switched spots after switching spots for the past 2 nights. So Detroit's kind of like digging into the ground with their heels, trying to like sustain, but they're also falling. And I think they just had to call up a backup goalie. So we'll see how
they did. Mrazek went down.
We'll see how this weekend goes, because
it's gotten even more interesting because the Islanders are falling.
Yes.
So now it's 81 points Detroit, 84 points Pittsburgh, 85 points Islanders. We can honestly end the season
in
a divisional spot.
Not only that, but the Rangers are dropping
too.
They got creamed the other night and are currently at 88 points. So the Flyers, if the Rangers drop like 4 out of the next like 6 or something along those lines, then the Flyers have some ground that they can make up, especially against the Islanders, because I think they play.
We play at the end of the year.
Yeah, we play at the very end, and then we play the Penguins 3 times in the span of like the rest of the season.
We play Detroit 1 more time.
So this is basically all the Flyers. Obviously you can get some help from other teams beating.
Thanks, Toronto. You guys, appreciate you.
We love you in Toronto, even though you're a bunch of goofball McGundies. It's not necessarily dependent on other teams to help the Flyers get into the playoffs. If the Flyers win, as much as they can, they get their playoff spot.
Absolutely. And
that's all they really need to hinge their bets on.
Although Detroit is above us by 1 point, our playoff chances are still, I think, 6.8% higher than theirs.
I think we're favorite. I read somewhere we were favorites to come out and win either a wild card spot or higher. And like I said, with everyone below Washington starting to like drop off a bit, this is the perfect time for the Flyers to get hot, and it's a good thing to see. But we will talk about that.
It's wonderful for us. Philly sports this year, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
Phillies are doing great in spring training
compared to last year when we were ready to blow our brains out, basically.
Yeah.
But it's a completely different story. Like the Phillies, even though it's spring training, they're still doing well. There's promise. Sixers, they're entertaining at least even when they lose, and that's okay. The Eagles are being smart, getting a new coaching staff.
I'm excited for this year for football. It's going to be a good year.
And Sammy Bradford, the team remained basically whole. Sam Bradford wanted to stay. The teammates wanted him to stay. And coaches finally locked him up for 2 years. This is potentially a good coming season for all Philadelphia sports.
Yes, absolutely.
But in our next point, Justin, you told me that Sam Bradford has gotten engaged.
He has. He's had himself quite the little off season.
Okay.
With a 2-year extension and got himself engaged.
I don't know how with that goofy face he carries around on him all the time.
He probably just butt fumbled his way into her life,
if that's one thing he picked up from Sanchez, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely positive.
He spent time with him. They were friends.
I mean, quote unquote friends.
Yeah.
As much as you can with a man who is only going to be known for the rest of his career as the man who ran into someone else's butt and fumbled a ball.
Yeah.
Which is the worst. But
not our problem anymore.
No, he is. He's Denver's issue now, and we traded him for a conditional 7th,
yep.
Which kind of big, I guess, in terms of how infrequently the Eagles even make trades. They're a free agency based team.
Absolutely. And
seeing a trade actually happen was whoa! I wasn't ready for this.
That and Murray, that was wow. Nicely done.
Yeah, they moved a lot. They had a very busy offseason and shall be entertaining to say the least. Moving right on, you had another point, the icing on the penalty kill, if you want to rant.
I understand that. Actually, you know what? No, I don't understand. They say the league needs to increase in scoring. All of the NHL games, the Devils games especially, have been ending 7-4. How much more scoring do you want? And now the GMs are seriously entertaining the idea of adding icing on the penalty kill. In what world is this okay?
Never. It is never okay.
This is going to increase injuries, if anything else, because you're already down a man, or in a 5-on-3, you're down 2 men. So that's the only option you can do. It's literally impossible to clear the zone sometimes. Yeah. That's the only option.
You can't long flip it to the goalie every time.
Yeah.
And just hoping that it hits or goes anywhere near the goalie so he can play it is a crapshoot. There's no way. Basically, if you create icing on the penalty kill,
it slows the game down.
Not only does it slow the game down, but especially if it's a 5-on-3 like it was for the Flyers and the Blackhawks, it's basically just sitting in your zone for 2 minutes, hoping that hell ends soon.
Yeah.
And that is the worst.
The players would be dead.
I understand more so shrinking the goalie's pads than I do this rule specifically. This rule makes 0 sense. And it is quite possibly the dumbest thing that the NHL could do. Why? My brain... No.
I don't, the bigger nets thing was also just beyond...
That makes no sense.
And they're okay, we see the error in our ways, okay, well, we won't talk about that anymore. But how is this better? This is worse.
Not good whatsoever. Just... It makes... the NHL expects... We were talking about this when... I think it was when Charlie brought up something along the lines of smaller... Was it smaller pads? I think smaller, he said.
Probably, yeah.
And he was oh, well, I would love to see an increase scoring come to the game and make the game more entertaining. But the thing is, it's not necessarily that the games are less entertaining. I think a good hockey game is when you see a full team experience.
Yes.
Both a combination of good offense and good defense. But at the same time, you can't say that there's a scoring issue, because while you'll have games that go 2-1, aka every Flyers Devils game ever, or any Devils game in general.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think it was last Monday. It was either last or this past Monday where 5 the games that took place that night ended with 5 or more goals, and one of the games ended 7-4. So you cannot say that
last night a game ended 7-4. On Tuesday there was one that ended 4-6.
You can't say that there's a reduced amount of scoring when you get game after day after day where goals will get scored all the time. While this is starting to be like a goalies league,
Yeah.
while goalies are like progressively improving. At the same time, teams are not scoring.
Yeah.
Like Ovechkin is still putting up numbers. You will have people who score. It's just, I think the game is at its peak right now. I think this is the best the game has ever been. I think hybrid icing is good for the league. I do not think this other crap is good.
Needs
This
to
is
stay
the worst.
out.
Just don't. Just leave the sport alone.
In the past 4 days,
Okay.
there have been 4 games where at least 8 goals were scored.
Like how can you make the excuse that there's not enough scoring? Like that blows my mind.
And that's not counting I didn't count the games that there were at least 7 goals scored because that would have had like 8.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. The NHL really needs to
plenty.
decide. It's the dumbest thing ever, though. Okay. On a less angry topic, we're gonna go back to the Flyers, who are currently, like we said before, deep in a playoff race. Second and third spots in the Metro up for grabs because the Rangers and the Islanders are sort of shifting in terms of focus and energy, and they're losing some games. So basically, the entire division is up for grabs, and the Flyers could potentially finish the regular season in the second place of the Metro division, which is
Crazy.
that makes absolutely no sense if we were talking about this roster about like 5 months ago. That is crazy. I think that's great because I didn't really especially expect the Flyers to be as hot as they have been, because at the beginning of the season I thought they would be a bubble team for the playoffs. I thought, okay, if they don't make the playoffs, it'll be like by one spot. If they do, they'll just make it into the wild card. But they have a very good chance of finishing like deep in the Metro. So the one thing they really need to worry about, I think, they're currently 4 points behind Pittsburgh, 5 behind the Islanders, and 8 behind the Rangers. I think the Flyers most likely need to push past the Penguins.
Yes.
They need to secure the third spot because I think there might be too much of a shift between the wild card spots because there's a lot of teams fighting for it.
Yes, there
like
are.
the Canes and the Senators are now in the playoff push.
They are, but they're 5 points behind us.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot back off. We need to keep the foot on the accelerator and keep driving forward here. But I feel the Flyers, this is going to be a 2010-like thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to come down to the last game, but it's going to come down to the last week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more than anything, it'll mostly just come down to the divisional games.
Yeah.
And the Detroit one.
You have to win all 4-point games from this point on.
Mm-hmm. Like you can't falter and lose at any point to a team that's also fighting for a playoff spot. Like I understand maybe giving a game to like, I don't know, some crap team that they're playing. I think they play the Blue Jackets one more time.
Yeah.
Like that'd be an understand. Like if you needed to take a loss, I think that might be the one you should give up.
Try to take it in overtime though.
Yeah, like try to get that point, but at the same time, we cannot lose any games to the Penguins. We have to beat the Penguins 3 times, and I think it took once at home and twice in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
So
Actually,
we're gonna find out Saturday.
twice at home.
Is it twice at home?
Because we play this Saturday and we play one more time before the end of the season in Philly.
Is it on a Sunday?
I will pull it up on Ticket.
All right, give us a sec. A little break in the action.
It is heating up for sure. As are the ticket prices.
Yeah, cannot say this is the easiest time to be a Flyers fan.
It's another Saturday, April 9th. Flyers.
Yep. That'll be primetime television. You'll probably catch that on NBCSN.
3 o'clock game, yep.
Doc Emmerich will be live and in color on your TV screens.
Talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yep. And I think this is probably the most exciting time. I said this last year, and you can probably vouch for me, that the Flyers would be better quicker, and we're seeing it because
Absolutely.
Shane Gostisbehere has been
to the
a breath of fresh air for this organization. I think he's turned it around faster than any other player I've seen turn a team
Absolutely. You have to. His name has to be in the Calder discussion.
I was writing an article about that. I'm rewriting an article about how Gostisbehere can win. A funny story about the writing itself. I got about a third of the way done. I have like fancy stat charts. I'd done like a solid hour and a half, 2 hours of full research. and then I left to go eat, and I come back to my computer, the document is deleted. Word didn't autosave or anything.
Oh, no.
So I am now left to blank pages. But I still do have the fancy stat chart, but it's still quite annoying. One of the points I think that we talked about before in our little group chat was that Shane Gostisbehere has to push the Flyers into the playoffs. And I think if the Flyers make the playoffs, especially on a few solid games from him, I think that might accelerate, but give people a better reason to vote for Gostisbehere.
Yes.
I don't know if you stuck around at the end of the game on Wednesday, but NHL.com did a vote to see who should win the Calder Trophy. At one point, 71% of people said Gostisbehere. And I remember on Twitter, they had NHL.com had a photo and a link to the poll that you could vote, and it said 30% Connor McDavid, 30% Gostisbehere. I'm just where are you getting those numbers? Because that is a lie. And you go to the website, and I think you finished with 68 or 69%.
69.
Which is nice. Yep. And that, even people are starting to recognize, pundits too, but at the same time, some of the people that were on the panel talking about this were oh, there's such stiff competition, but there's not. The world of difference that Gostisbehere has made compared to the other 4 people that they listed is staggering.
Even on Monday, they tried to compare him to Larkin when we played Detroit. And they're oh, Larkin has more goals. Larkin has also played almost 20-something more games, and he's a forward.
And a forward! Yeah. People do not seem to understand that Gostisbehere's greatness and the fact that he's been so offensively dominant is jarring because he's a defenseman.
Exactly.
He's a rookie defenseman. And he's number 1 in the league in shooting percentage for defensemen.
A rookie defenseman who blew out his knee last year, did not play it at all, and has come in and done this.
And came back.
Yes.
And done this. That's amazing. He is, I think it's I think the stat was something he shoots 13%.
That's
for a defenseman. That's the best in the league. He's number 1 in game-winning goals. He's number 1. I think he's number 1 among rookie defensemen in game winners and overtime goals. He's done so much for the Flyers to make them that, put him in this spot. I'm not saying it's all him. Obviously, team effort.
Absolutely.
But he has sparked this team forward.
Yes.
Anytime anything bad happens to him, anytime a player tries to run him, a.k.a. Taylor Hall, someone will step in, Wayne Simmons. And that is amazing. That cements how good the chemistry on this team is. How...
They all are willing to fight for each other.
They
for each other.
This is... Even though we have a very goonish fourth line, Vandevelde supposedly not playing Saturday.
Regardless, it's confirmed he's not playing. Axel said even if he's not suspended, he's not playing.
And that means Voracek will be in the lineup,
yep.
And he's... I can actually read off the lines because Dave Isaac, the lad, sent them out this morning. Some pretty good stuff. At the top line is Braden Shen, Claude Giroux, Wayne Simmons. Always good stuff there. Second line, Raffel Couturier, Gagne.
Do not mess with that chemistry.
He's not taking any chances.
Great.
Third line, he's doing Dad Reed, Nick Cousins, and Voracek. And the fourth line, very interesting to me. I feel like this could be a decent pairing. Lawton, Belmar, and White. What do you think of these lines?
I like them a lot. I think line 4 is going to be underrated, and they're not going to pay much attention to it. But Scott Lawton has been a man possessed these past few games. Although it has not paid off on the score sheet, he is deep in the offensive zone every shift. Positive Corsi every shift.
Him and Nick Cousins.
Yeah.
They've been amazing. It's inexplicable because everybody was willing to write him off. A lot of people said that he was the most disappointing aspect of the season aside from
I don't think it's disappointing at all. It's his first full year in the NHL. I expected this.
Every
transition.
Every player needs that start. Even for Gostisbehere, there was a transition period.
Couturier's first year, his point production wasn't much. Granted, Lawton's is less, but Couturier was supposed to be the next Patrice Bergeron. There's nothing said like that about Lawton. Yeah, he was supposed to be good, but there's no
one had a comparison point. No one figured he's going to be the next Peter Forsberg or the Lindros or whatever. Lawton is because he hasn't been harped on from the media, he's been able to sort of play his own role. He's transitioned well from center to winger, and being paired with Cousins and Dad Reed has helped because they all work together. Dad Reed is the perfect veteran to help these young guys play. He's smart. He plays the D. He plays the best two-way game on this team.
Yes, he does.
Next to Wayne Simmons, and the whole team is a solid piece of art, and it's amazing.
And White is so underrated too.
Yeah, White, since he's been given, oh look, we have a friend. We have a friend. Open the door. We're talking Flyers.
Wow, we got a guest.
We have a surprise guest joining us out of nowhere. Hey, we're not live currently. We're recording for YouTube. If you want to say hi.
Oh, well, hello.
And you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm Kathleen.
And Kathleen is the significant other of one Matt Steelman, who is sadly, again, not here today.
Yeah.
But since now we have more than two people, this answer can be answered more than twice. What do you think the Flyers need to do Saturday to beat the Penguins?
Get in their head.
Yeah.
Get in their head early, score first, and just body the heck out of them.
Mm-hmm.
They will resort back to we are literally owned by the Philadelphia Flyers. They will take stupid penalties, and we will score at least 3 times in the power play.
Kathleen, what do you think?
I think they should just be physical, get under their skin, make them mad.
Mm-hmm.
When they get mad, they'll start making mistakes and start pulling stupid penalties. We should take advantage of that.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Fleury will most likely play Saturday. I don't think he has any.
Flower will wilt, as he always does.
As he tends to do at the end of every season. But I think what the Flyers really need to do is focus Coots on Crosby. I think the matchup game really
Malkin's not in.
Malkin's not in, so
done.
that's a significant disadvantage. Yeah. That is honestly there have been their best plays, but the best player at the start of the season, Crosby more so as of recently. But now without Malkin, Crosby now has to do a lot of the brunt work. He has to fill in a lot of time, and I think if Couturier can do his thing, which he normally does near this time of the year every year. He needs to shut down Crosby and then let Jake and Giroux just let loose on Fleury. And if and when that happens, I think the Flyers will walk away with a 5-2 victory.
Absolutely.
The Penguins always tend to get inside there we need to do something physical to get back into this game. And they always blow it because Wayne Simmons is there to feed them fists.
Yes.
And it is the best thing ever.
Yes, we lost to Pittsburgh this year, but we didn't have Sean Couturier.
We didn't have Coots, and that's not entirely an excuse because the Flyers did play.
But it was only one goal.
It was a big part.
It was a 1-goal game,
yep.
And Braden Shen scored. I forget who else scored in that game. Did Lawton score in that game?
I do believe Voracek scored, and I think Simmons scored.
Okay. So the Flyers are now going to be even then at that point the Flyers weren't as together as they are now. This Flyers team now
this is a family.
Is a completely different team than at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely
reminds me of the Cup run in 2010 because Aaron Ashram, Ryan White. I mean, what's the difference? But I think this could be a very exciting. Well, I know this is going to be a very exciting couple weeks. Not even just this game.
Oh yeah.
And I guess to sort of wrap it up, we're gonna do our pick'ems real quick. Currently in the standings, because I don't know how, but we flubbed 2 weeks ago for our standings. But as it were, Justin is currently in the lead with 12 points, followed by me at 11 and Matt at 10. And we have 2 really important games for the Flyers, not so much for the other teams. First off, Justin, Ottawa versus the Islanders.
I do believe that the NHL is not going to help us in any way, and we have to fight for ourselves. Unfortunately, the Islanders are going to take this one 4-2 because the Senators and Daddy Ryan are not having a very good.
No, they're not. However, I think that Ottawa might want to play spoiler. Just in case they can push themselves into a wild card spot now with Detroit falling.
I'm all for it. If Ottawa does it,
so I have Ottawa winning 3-1. Right. I don't trust that they'll do it, but I think the Islanders have been bad. Not bad, but they've been slipping because Halak's gotten hurt.
Yep.
Grice, while he's been good, is not great.
He's not ready for a starter role.
So I think Ottawa might take this one, even in it's in the worst stadium in the NHL. So
I hope you're right.
I mean, it might come down to that. Now for the Matt also said 4-2 for the Islanders. Now for the second and probably the more that's definitely not the more important game, but just as important, if not significantly less. We have Boston at the Rangers, Justin.
It's going to be... The Rangers are falling. Like, I don't want to say... It's going to be close, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's going to be one goal game, 2-1 Boston, maybe.
All right. Well, interestingly enough, we all have Boston. Matt went 3-2 Boston. I went 4-3 Boston. I think it'll be a close game, but if Lundqvist plays at home, they are going to be sad.
Yes.
Because they have been awful as of recently. Lundqvist is mad.
None of their goalies are good. You have not heard the word Rick Nash on any telecast this year.
No. He's been dead in the water. It's almost amazing because I thought he was going to go somewhere and like produce, and now he's just like, I'm Chris Kreider now, kind of. Or like something along those lines.
It's like, oh, I can't produce in the playoffs. I guess I just can't produce anymore at all.
No, it's like, oh, well, can't score highlight reel goals. Might as well just
guess I'm done for the season.
Earn my money and eat some Dunkin' Donuts or something. I don't know. He has just been nothing, and the Rangers' defense has been bad. Dan Girardi, Jesus Christ. Honestly, I just don't expect the Rangers to do well. I think the Rangers might get off to a hot start, like a 2-1 start, and then by like the end of the second period, it'll be 4-1.
We'll see what happens.
So, with that, this 30-minute episode of Sports Zealots will come to a close. Sadly, we're not on the air, as usual. Becoming more and more consistent. Hey, join us in about 3 weeks when we might actually be off the actual air for almost a full year. Yeah. And if we come back after that, best believe we're going to have a big celebration special to commemorate it. So until then, Justin and Kathleen, if you have any words for the listening audience.
Wake up, Philadelphia, and let me hear you sing We're Going to the Playoffs. That's all.
Kathleen?
I have nothing fun to say.
All right, so until next time when we decide to either record this in podcast format or in the unlikely chance we're actually on the air, we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.